Fort Pitt Tunnel.
I-279 north is on the left, and then exit 70A is on the right. Keep left, and then sharp left turn, I-376 west. Keep right, and then right turn. Exit 1BC is on the left, and then keep left, exit 1B. Keep left, exit 1B, and then right turn. In half of a mile, right turn onto Allegheny Avenue. Next right, and then keep right onto I-279 south. Exit 69C is on the right, and then right turn. In 4/10 of a mile, right turn onto West Station Square Drive.
行，我们先上车了。
这边宽不行，要这一边。
这边吗？对。来。来，咱们人的契合，感谢这个匹兹堡，咱们站照个相，感谢。来，你们往那个阳光的地方贴，赶紧的，一会儿我这先送上，然后再来一帮人，赶紧，对，现在就咱们这。
哦，这个车你看，就是。
来，海刚，尽量往这边贴，
有时候在前面，
上来，该上来，可以上来，你上来，你上去站个岗，你自己看电视，我到时候发给你，我照着好，金片蓝。这边有点。
对看这个是看背光，有背光，而且脸上的那个光线，这样来一张的，
对，这样光线好，对。这就好。
Heinz Field。
对，黑的啊，黑的。哇，这个太美了，对，而且关键是这么多。
我们刚才就是在这个地方。对，这 Point Park， 这叫 Point Park。我们 hotel 看到没有？那个。
这个景色拍出来，完全就是明信片。
对啊。
对。
晚上也很美。这个呢 ，Steeler 的主场。
这个是。
对。这个在一定是有关系。
那就是已经6条了，我都看得到眼睛已经6条桥了。
这个桥是特别多，
这边已经4条了。
其实它这个的抽出来
5条6条。
跟上海长江的那个路上
1、2、3、4。
也有一个。
我都看到了20多条了。
哎，你看这么多桥。
是啊，20多条了这儿的。
因为天气好，今天天气好。
对，今天天气。
今天是简直是。
看出来更好。
今天是上帝关心的。
完了，你说那个空气，那个就是透亮的透亮，排出来的那个天看到
20多条了。对呀，但是你就数嘛，各个方向。
这样还不行哎，你竖起来。这样，从左到右，腰跟左一下。
从左到右啊。
对了，这样就可以了。
这样呢怎么样？可以走了吗？
你手松开就行了，可以往前走。
哦，好，走。
现在能拖得这么快了，
对，可以拖。
我以前拖呢就拖慢。
Imagine messing with Steeler.
Oh my god, worrisome. My mom had a worrisome when she broke it. She's like, lovely. Why did I bought my keys? I broke it too. Yeah, I touched it. I saw it. Although it used to be less sad. I've had this for like 5 minutes.
I was planning to do the boat cruise.
All right, make a left.
Left here? Okay.
Yep, make a left.
And once again, we'd like to welcome everyone aboard the Three Rivers Queen. I'm your captain today, Captain Joe. And on our classic sightseeing cruise, we will sail all three rivers of Pittsburgh, and you will see the sights of the Golden Triangle. We will be heading upstream on the Monongahela River. The Mon River is 128.7 miles long. It starts in Fairmont, West Virginia. It's made up of the Tigard and West Fork rivers. And much like Pittsburgh, those two rivers come together, and the headwaters of the Monongahela River is Bourne. So, at this time now, I'm going to hand the narration over to Alex, who's going to continue telling you about the sights.
Thank you, Captain, and thank you, everybody, for coming out to see the good side of the city, hitching a ride on the Riverboat Queen. Some of you got that. This is our classic sightseeing tour, focusing on the landmarks of Pittsburgh. But before I begin, two big announcements to make. First of all, my voice can be heard ananywhere on the boat, so you're free to move around as you please. And second, as the captain mentioned earlier, we have a full-service refreshment, snacks, and cocktail bar down on the first deck. Feel free to help yourself to a Bloody Mary or mimosa. The more you drink, the funnier I'm going to get. First sight directly ahead of us, the Smithfield Street Bridge. This is the oldest bridge in Pittsburgh at nearly 140 years of age. In the 1990s, it was designated as a historic landmark of the city and restored to the original colors which you see now, brown, blue, and gold. You might have noticed that all the other bridges downtown are painted bright yellow. City law says that they have to be painted that way to reflect Pittsburgh's Golden Triangle, the downtown financial district, with an obvious exception for historic landmarks. Right now we are sailing on the Monongahela River, and there is a strange legend about this river. Centuries ago, long before the Europeans arrived, the local Native American tribes would tell each other stories of a particularly long stretch of the river that had no bottom. It was a place where evil spirits dwelt, and a river monster known as the Ogre One that could swallow a deer whole. Obviously, in modern times, that legend has fallen by the wayside. Ahead of us, you will see a rail bridge crossing the Monongahela. That is the T Bridge, so named because it provides a route for our light rail system, the T. We are so good at naming things in Pittsburgh. The T is free to ride downtown, by the way, so if you would like to take in the sights of our Golden Triangle without hunting for ever more expensive parking spaces, you have a friendly alternative. Directly in front of us is Pittsburgh's famous Skyline. And in particular, I'd like to direct everyone's attention to a tan brick skyscraper with the name Huntington at the top. That is the Grant Building, a U.S. Coast Guard certified lighthouse, and not just for boats either. The antenna at the top is an airplane beacon that allows the staff. An airplane beacon that lights up every night with flashing green strobes that spell out the name Pittsburgh in Morse code, in case you forget where you are. Across from that is a tower that looks like 4 silver-banded octagons all pushed together. That is One Oxford Place, a one-stop shopping center where you can buy Skyline is the newest addition, the tower at Pnc Plaza. Easy to recognize because of its sloped roof with solar panels. That is the greenest skyscraper on Earth. Thanks to the solar panels and energy-efficient design of the building, it only requires as much electricity to power it in 1 month as 2 Pittsburgh households. A far cry from our down and dirty days of the Industrial Revolution, no? In fact, Pittsburgh is now a leading city in the United States in the development of green technology. And there are 2 more landmarks that are a testament to that fact I'll be pointing out later on. As we cross back underneath the Smithfield Street Bridge, take a look over to the right, and you'll see that there is a parking garage running along the riverbanks. That is the Monongahela Wharf, which until 1982 was the home of the Gateway River. Today, it is home to the cheapest parking in all of downtown Pittsburgh. So cheap because every now and again, it floods. Above that is a row of buildings that have been restored to look as they did a century ago, which I admit I'm mostly just bringing up because I am a giant movie nerd. PPG Place, which stands for Pittsburgh Plate Glass. It was built in the 1980s to celebrate the company's centennial anniversary, and is part of a tradition here in Pittsburgh that whenever companies build a corporate headquarters within the city, they ask the architect to showcase their product and the building's design. In the case of Pittsburgh Plate Glass, they wanted to show off, well, I think it's pretty obvious, don't you? Other examples of this tradition include the Alcoa building on the banks of the Allegheny River, and the U.S. Steel Tower, which I will be telling you more about later on in the cruise. In the meantime, coming up on either side of the boat ahead of us are a pair of dark, worn stone bridge piers, all that remain of the Wabash Rail Bridge. The bridge was built in the late 19th century, though it did take some effort. The first 3 attempts at finishing the job had to be canceled for the following reasons in order: smallpox, accident, and another accident. The bridge was eventually torn down in the 1940s, and in the process, the city crunched the numbers and realized that removing the piers would be way more expensive. Arts Festival. I think you'll all agree with me that for the purposes of our tour, the star is the fountain at the point. The fountain was remodeled a few short years ago, adding in a computer system to control the height of the jets. On a clear day, they can shoot water up to 150 feet in the air. I say on a clear day because that computer also measures the wind speed. The higher the wind speed goes, the lower the jets go. That was a necessary feature to conserve water. Before that, it was not unusual for a strong wind coming up of the rivers to blow mist and spray from the fountain all the way to the Wyndham Hotel behind Point State Park. Pittsburgh's crazy weather in action. In a moment, we're going to leave the Monongahela River and round the point to go up the Allegheny. If you're inclined to get some pictures of the park or the skyline, this is an excellent opportunity to do so. And I'm going to hand things off to our captain for a moment to tell you a little bit more about the 3 rivers themselves. Captain?
Folks, we are now coming up to the confluence of the city of Pittsburgh. This is where the Allegheny, which is on the opposite side of the fountain, and ends right here, along with the Monongahela River. These 2 rivers end at the very tip of the Point State Park fountain, and that is where the Ohio River begins. You are looking at the birthplace of the Ohio River. Now, the Ohio River is 980 long. It travels from Pittsburgh to Cairo, and that's why it feeds the upper Mississippi River to form the lower Mississippi River. And you do pronounce Cairo. Cairo. You do not go down to Cairo, Illinois, and say Cairo. They will tell you that they are not in Egypt. So it is Cairo, Illinois. The Ohio River was also named by the Native Americans. The word Ohio means beautiful waters. The stream on the Allegheny.
要是没有庙，这个最尖了。
The Allegheny River started roughly 25 miles long. It starts in Potter County, Pennsylvania, in a little town called Coudersport. It actually begins in a family's backyard. It's actually just a very small spout of waters that springs up. It's formed its own path over the thousands of years to a creek, which widens out eventually to the river we see right here. The Allegheny River was also named by the Native Americans. The word Allegheny means fair waters. Both the Allegheny and Ohio rivers were named by the Seneca Indians.
One of our famous bridges ahead is the Fort Duquesne Bridge, once known as the Bridge to Nowhere. And yes, there is a story behind that. When the bridge was first built in the 1960s, somebody made a mistake filling out the paperwork. So yeah, the bridge got built, but the highway it was supposed to connect to didn't. For years, the highway got held up in red tape and the bridge just sat there in the middle of the river, dropping off into nothing. Locals called it the Bridge to Nowhere. Now, obviously, there were plenty of signs in place to warn locals about this. But one day, a University of Pittsburgh student drove onto the bridge, disregarding every single one of the warning signs for reasons I can only begin to guess at. And yes, promptly drove his car right off the end of the bridge. It landed upside down in the shallows, but amazingly, the driver was uninjured. Kind of a mixed blessing, really, because he also got to live through years of Pittsburghers joking about how our city survived falling off the bridge to nowhere. Never let it be said that Pittsburghers do not enjoy our gallows humor. Behind Gateway Center, you will see a needle, a skyscraper with a needle at the top. That is the Highway building. When it was first commissioned, the architect designed it to be the same height as the U.S. Steel Tower, which is Pittsburgh's tallest skyscraper. However, once construction started, the city stepped in and said, no, you can't build it that high. It's not safe. The architect was a little bit salty about that. He redesigned the top of the building, adding the needle. He couldn't match the original intended height, but he got as close as the city would let him. For safety, he also had the needle mounted onto a spring-loaded base, so that whenever the wind blows, instead of just breaking off, the needle could move up to 3 feet in any direction. Clever idea. This first bridge ahead is the Roberto Clemente Bridge, named for the former Pittsburgh Pirate and one of the greatest baseball players of all time. Pittsburghers of a certain age remember where they were when the news of Clemente's untimely death first came in. And this bridge is one of several ways the city has chosen to honor his legacy. Not only as a great athlete, but a great humanitarian. At night, the bridge is lit up with icy blue lights reflecting those of PNC Park, which I'll be telling you more about on our return trip down the river. For those of you not in the know, Clemente died on New Year's Eve, 1972. He was on a plane taking relief supplies to earthquake victims in Nicaragua, but the plane never made it to its destination. It's a tradition here in Pittsburgh that on their anniversary, couples will come out to the bridge, attach a padlock to the guardrail, and throw the key into the river as a symbol of their devotion to one another. A beautiful, sentimental tradition that we stole from Paris. Our second sister bridge is the Andy Warhol Bridge, named for the famous pop artist and filmmaker. Andy was born and raised in Pittsburgh suburbs, but didn't care as much for the city, which is why he moved to New York for his artistic career. We don't hold that against him, though. He did eventually come home. I mean, yes, it was after he died, but still. Andy's remains are in. Our third and final sister bridge directly ahead is the Rachel Carson Bridge, named for the famous environmentalist and activist. She was born and raised in Pittsburgh suburbs and did extensive research into the pesticide known as DDT. Right now, the bridge is undergoing some scheduled routine maintenance. Once completed later this year, there will be a new set of white corkscrew windmills on the suspension cables to provide renewable electricity for the bridge's dazzling shooting star light-up display at night. How fitting that the bridge we named after an environmentalist should also be our greenest. And, speaking of which, Ahead of us is the David L. Lawrence Convention Center, one of the largest and greenest convention centers in the world. The unique sloped roof of the building was polished by the workers putting on fleece hoodies and sliding down it to get the sheet they wanted. Kind of wish I'd been there for that job. And now so do you. The roof also has a set of scrolling blue LED lights that spell out passages from children's books. So if you find yourself flying over Pittsburgh one night, you can look out the window and catch up on some light reading. Only one, I promise. It's a sickness. Baseball stadiums in the world. And no, that is not my personal bias talking. That was a declaration from ESPN. A big part of it is because Pnc Park was designed to sell out its capacity as frequently as possible by making sure that there are no bad seats. You might have noticed that Pnc Park looks unusually small as baseball stadiums go. And that is because the seats have been arranged in such a way that everybody has clear views of the field. Even the cheap seats are not more than 80 feet from the action. In fact, I would argue that the only way it is possible to get a bad seat at Pnc Park is if you are one of those people who insist on illegally parking their boats in the middle of the river to watch the Jumbotron while we are running these cruises. I don't care how big a Pirates fan you think you are, our boat is still bigger than yours. The laws of physics still apply.
How many seats there?
I don't remember how many. We'll get to it. As I mentioned earlier, in front of the second building of the People Center is also the second of our 3 North Shore Veterans Memorials. This one is the Vietnam War Veterans Memorial. Cast in bronze in a shape that to Western eyes might resemble a pineapple, but is in fact in the shape of an upside-down lotus blossom, which is the Asian symbol for peace. Just around the corner from the People Center, we'll soon be able to see our 3rd and final Veterans Memorial, the World War II Memorial. And just behind that is one of Pittsburgh's newer concert venues, Stage AE. Notable for being both an indoor and outdoor venue. Parked in the river in front of the Science Center is the elephant in the room, an authentic World War II era submarine, the USS Requin, which is French for shark. The Requin was built in 1945 and deployed into the Pacific Theater just in time for World War II to end. With no battles to fight, the Requin did what so many other veterans have done, retired to Florida. While there, it saw some use as a training vehicle, later a patrol boat during the Cold War, and today makes its forever home here in Pittsburgh, where the Science Center offers daily tours of the interior as part of the regular ticket price. On one last note about the Requin, that fin on top of it, fake. Those fins, called conning towers, are exclusive to nuclear submarines, which the Requin is not. The Duquesne Incline ahead of us on the right initially had some trouble staying in business when it first opened to the public. The ride fare was a nickel, back in the days when a nickel actually meant something. But the people living on Mount Washington looked at that ride fare and said to themselves, why on earth would I pay 5 cents to ride that thing when there is a perfectly good set of stairs running up all 369 feet of the mountain that I can walk for free? When the Europeans first arrived, they discovered a massive coal seam hidden within the mountain, so they gave it the very imaginative name, Coal Hill. As you can tell, we have always been good at naming things in Pittsburgh. That coal was vital to jump-starting our city for the Industrial Revolution. By 1900, we had made our name on the world stage as the Steel City, industrial capital of the United States, producing more than half the steel in North America and full of famous millionaires like Carnegie, Frick, Mellon, Westinghouse, and Heinz. Of course, everything has a price. And the cost of all those decades of unrestrained industrial growth was turning Pittsburgh into one of the most polluted cities in the country. For years, the Three Rivers were just foul-smelling eyesores filled with sewage and industrial runoff. No fish could live in these waters, and there was no point taking a swim either, unless you weren't very attached to the top 2 layers of your skin. The smog used to be so thick you could walk outside in a white shirt, 30 minutes later it would have already turned gray. And Coal Hill, well, by nothing less than its namesake. Try to imagine that mountain over there with no trees or vegetation at all. Just barren rock, covered in dust, soot, and ash. And just to make it even uglier, 15 different inclines running up the sides of it night and day. Originally, the inclines were built to move freight up and down the mountains, but were eventually opened up to the public for transportation. And of course, Pittsburgh does have a share of celebrities. I've mentioned a few already, like George Romero, Andy Warhol, and Mr. Rogers, but the list does go on. For example, if I were limited to just music stars, in the second generation of classic rock, Pittsburgh was home to singer-songwriter Donnie Iris, still a local favorite, and the alt-rock band The Clarks. Gratitude are accepted and deeply appreciated. So on behalf of myself and the rest of the crew of the Gateway Clipper Fleet's Three Rivers Queen, I'd like to thank you all once again for coming out to join us today, and I hope you have a beautiful week ahead of you, courtesy of the Gateway Clipper. Thank you.
In 4/10 of a mile, keep right onto Arlington Avenue. Proceed about 9/10 of a mile to Grandview Avenue. In half of a mile, left turn onto Grandview Avenue. Next left. In a quarter of a mile, your destination is ahead. Next right, and then your destination is ahead. You have arrived at your destination. The route guidance is now finished. The route guidance will start now. In 4/10 of a mile, right turn onto Liberty Avenue. right turn ahead, and then left turn. Next left, and then left turn. Right turn ahead. In 1/10 of a mile, your destination is ahead. Your destination is ahead. You have arrived at your destination. The route guidance is now finished.
I'm at the Hampton Inn in downtown Pittsburgh. Bless me.